This one is for both of you.
Okay.
Okay.
Why did you want to become artists?
Ah,
You go first.
I go first?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Because you're the artist.
Well, I always drew pictures. From your age on, I always was drawing pictures in school, when I may have been supposed to be doing other stuff, but I was still doing the other stuff, and
That you were supposed to?
I was supposed to, yes. But I was drawing pictures. I like to tell stories, and I was slow to learn how to read. So the way I remembered my stories was to draw pictures, to tell them as picture stories. And later I added the words, so it just seemed like a thing to do. And then when I got in college, I found a very nice art professor who helped me learn that it was possible to make a living as an artist.
But because you were also an only child, she said, prompting you.
Are you prompting me?
No.
Where does that story go? I was an only child. Apparently I was very lonely and had to tell myself stories. Oh, that wasn't it? Oh, okay, no, forget that.
No, you
Forget
entertained yourself.
I entertained myself because I was really lonely. It was a sad childhood. Sad childhood. No, not really. I had a very, very lovely childhood. Your turn.
Well, I don't consider myself an artist, but I'll call myself a writer if you want me to answer for you.
Isn't putting words together in the proper order in an interesting way in art?
It is.
Okay, because I don't know how to do that.
And just as you were slow to learn to read, I was really fast to learn to read. And I think because words
That's
came...
continued.
It's
Fast is
continued.
continued.
I think because I was a quick reader, I became a writer. But I can't tell you specifically why. I always liked writing. It's always fun to do.
Okay, this one's to Mrs. Alley.
Oh, okay.
When you were little, did you like drawing?
Oh, you sure you want to ask me, or did you mean Bob because he's the artist? I'll answer if you want to.
Oh, no.
Did you mean me?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I like drawing? I did like drawing. I
That's
just
a good
wasn't very
question,
good at it. I could copy things. Like I could take, this book and I could copy the picture, but creating it on my own I was not as good at. You, however...
But you have a good visual sense.
I do.
What Zoe is able to do is when I show her a picture, and I'm not
That you've
sure
drawn.
I've drawn, and I'm not sure about whether it's getting across the idea that I want to get across. She's very good at figuring out what the problem might be.
Thank you.
It's true.
Did that answer your question, Sam?
Because we do
Oh,
want to
good,
answer
okay.
your questions.
You can call us Bob and Zoe, by the way. You
Yeah.
don't have to call us.
If
Miss
that's
Francis,
allowed.
If you feel okay
If
with
it
that.
feels,
Okay.
Okay.
yeah,
This one is for Bob.
she did it. Very
She
good.
did it.
Very, very impressed. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I like drawing animals. What do you like to draw?
Oh, I like animals too, but I can never figure out, like when I want to tell a story, maybe you have the same thing. It makes a big difference in the story as to whether the characters are animals or people. I mean, sometimes I can get better expressions, I think, on the animals or better sense of the story with the animals, because when you draw people, telling your story, you have all sorts of different different stuff comes across depending on the gender and the ethnicity of the people you choose. Animals, you can kind of get away with just drawing animals, especially if they're... Now, if you mean you like drawing animals that don't have clothes, that's a whole different thing, because I'm not really good at drawing animals that don't wear clothes.
Which is why you don't see Paddington naked.
Right. Well, that's...
Usually.
No, you do.
Well, in the bathtub you do.
Well, yeah, but
Yeah.
hanging around the house, he also kind of,
Kind of lounges naked.
he does,
Yeah.
he does. But
If you're naked in there, he
if
knows.
I had that much fur...
He knows the naked picture.
Yeah, yes, yes.
Oh, you're right.
Well,
yeah.
yeah, he's very clean, and yeah. Yeah, so he's not embarrassed about his fur.
I'm going to cover my eyes on that picture.
Okay.
I'm
Yeah,
embarrassed.
we've had many discussions about that. Now, do you like drawing animals that look like animals in the wild, or do you like drawing animals that look like they possibly live in cities interacting with people?
Animals that just look like
Can you draw horses? Because Bob can't.
No, I'm really bad at drawing horses.
You need to give him lessons then.
Yeah.
Every time he has to draw a horse, it's a chore.
Yeah, the rear legs just don't work. They look, it all winds up looking like a dog.
Thank goodness Paddington was a bear. Paddington was
I
a
know.
horse.
Well, that
He's
would
starving.
that'd be a totally different story.
It would be a
That'd be
different
Mr. Ed, but never. Yeah. Sam, do you have a question?
Yeah.
Oh, good.
It's for Bob.
That's neat.
How many years have you been illustrating Paddington books?
Interesting question.
312.
Or, about 20 years now. The first book I illustrated came out 20 years ago. So, it's yes, 20 years. And Paddington will have his 60th birthday in October, I think, when the first Paddington book
So
was
basically,
published.
when our kids were their age, when they were in this picture, that was when Bob started to do the pictures, the illustrations.
Oh yeah, look, there's
They
Cassie and
were
Max.
your ages then. Yeah.
That's right. Now look, they look so
Ish.
happy. Yeah, they're doing their Beatles cover. Yeah,
They're 25 and 28 now, so
Right.
it's been a few years.
yeah, they grew up a bit. Yeah, Max's hair isn't that blonde
No.
anymore.
No, nor is it a bowl cut.
No. Well, that's probably good. Yeah, I think so.
Okay, this one is for Bob and Zoe.
Okay.
Ooh.
So, do you guys usually work together to illustrate books, or do you just do it?
That's a good question. Most people who write and illustrate books aren't married, but we, as you've noticed, happen to be. So when I write a book that Bob is going to illustrate, the words always come first in a children's book. So I do the text first, the words first, and Bob will then take my words and put the pictures to them afterwards.
What she said.
But because we've been married so long, and we've been together, we live together, we work together, we do everything together, when I write my stories, I just in my head know what he's going to make the pictures look like, and he knows in his head what I'm thinking about what the characters should look like.
What
It's
I
kind of
need
one
to
of those
draw.
weird things. Yeah, we talk about, is the character a human? Is the character a bear? Is the character a horse? Probably would not be a good
We don't talk about
idea.
that very much, no.
I haven't
no.
done a horse.
No.
But we sort of just know what the other one needs it to be.
Yes.
Do you have anything to add to that?
No, except that because Zoe she writes excellent dialogue, and when you're putting together the pictures for a picture book, what you don't really want to have is a lot of extra description and words of places and scene setting and stuff like that. If you look at it, like most picture books, if you took away the pictures and just looked at the words themselves, it could sort of read like a play or a movie script or something like that, because it's just the characters talking to one another. So that's fun. That means that the artist can do whatever they want. Well, within reason, especially if the author is in the next room.
So you have to use the words that I write in the right order.
Yes, and that's very annoying. And sometimes when I'm laying out the book, there'll be a lot of the words there won't be enough room for the pictures, so I'll just take out a few words here and there. Authors don't like that.
To which I
apparently.
object.
Yeah, very
You
annoying.
need to use my words.
Yeah. How's that happening?
How's he setting that up? That's amazing. Yeah, but
That's kind of cool.
He's bending the paper a little bit at the
Look at that. It's a very still day
very
here in
clever,
the house.
Sam.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm.
No,
This
yeah.
one's to Bob.
Okay.
Do you like reading the Paddington books as well as illustrating them?
Yes. Mr. Bond always writes, I think, very good stories, because Paddington is both a kid and an adult, which is kind of cool. He's a little kid in the sense that he is shortish and he is surprised by the world around him, but he's an adult in the sense that he is able to figure out kind of adulty ways of getting around the predicaments he's in. And I like the stories because there's always a problem. He always gets in trouble. And
But he always gets out of the trouble.
He
too.
always figures out a way to get out of it. And he's so optimistic, which is a nice thing, because Mr. Bond was a very optimistic person.
Do you guys know what optimism means? You do. Okay.
Yes, always looking for the good things in people. He doesn't believe that Paddington as a character doesn't believe that people are necessarily bad at heart. Most people he thinks are good at heart.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Mr. Bond shared that mostly.
And this is for Zoe.
Okay.
When you were little, did you have a hobby? If so, what was it?
That's a good question. Did I have a hobby? Well, I had lots of hobbies. My parents liked to have us, I have a sister, and they used to like to have us try new things out. So I played piano, poorly, as I can demonstrate later if you'd like on our piano.
Which still has the kick marks on it.
Yes, my parents used to make me practice, and I wasn't really into practicing. And I'd sit on the bench, and I had my shoes on, and I'd kick the bottom of the piano, and you can see the scuff marks. Right?
Yeah.
They're still there. I did theater for a while. That was a hobby. I liked to act, but I never got... I was fancied that I was going to be the one... You know, in Peter Pan, I was going to be Peter Pan. Or in Mary Poppins, I was going to be Mary Poppins. It didn't work out that way. I was great in the background, in the chorus, and I was always really, really, really small, too. I'm not really tall now, but I was always really small. So people would always pick me up in the plays, you know, they physically pick, I don't know, do you guys get picked up by friends of yours who are taller?
Yeah.
Does it drive you crazy? Because it drove me crazy. Maybe it's a Zoe thing. It goes with the name. But it would drive me crazy. So, but because I was little, they always put me in the background in the chorus. What else did I do? My sister played sports. I was terrible. I can't throw a ball to save my life. Well,
No, you can't.
I can't.
Yeah. I'd like to
You
say
can't say
differently, but
that's
it
not
would
fair.
not be honest. No.
What else did you do, Bob? What were my hobbies? I'm trying to think. When I was a kid, what were my
Well,
hobbies?
that's a fair amount.
Yeah, I think that. Yeah,
I mean,
guess.
you sounds like you did a lot of different stuff.
I was very social. My friends were my hobbies.
Yes.
I like to have friends.
That has continued.
That has continued. Do you guys have hobbies?
I like drawing.
This is a good hobby. That would be the answer to, if you would ask me that question, that would be my answer.
How about you, Sam? Do you have a hobby?
I don't know.
Don't know yet.
Don't know?
You have to collect dog tags. That's a very good hobby.
That is a start. That's a start on a hobby.
Excuse me.
This one's to Mr. Bob. When did you and Michael Bond meet?
Let's see. We would have met about 21 years ago when I first started doing the books, because I had to get his approval. The people who were printing the books, the publisher, had asked me to try to illustrate the books, because I thought that my style of drawing would complement a new series of picture books about Paddington, but they had to get Mr. Bond's approval, because there have been many illustrators of Paddington, and so luckily he thought my pictures were okay. So he was a very nice man. He was very pleasant. He showed me around the places in London where Paddington lives, because it was absolutely clear that Paddington was very real to him, and he would not have been at all surprised if Paddington had walked around the corner at some point. And having spent a day with him, I'm not sure I would have been surprised either. So he was very nice. So yeah, about 21 years ago.
I have one last question.
Yes.
Okay.
It's for both of you.
Okay.
Oh, both of us.
So don't mess it up.
Okay, I'll try
On
not to.
top of your job, what else do you like to do?
Oh, Zoe.
Let's see. I'm a big reader. So I like to read. We go to movies.
You collect friends?
I collect friends. I don't collect dog tags. We go to visit our kids who live in New York City and Los Angeles.
I can tag on to that answer.
We travel.
You travel.
We eat.
Yes, we do
I'm a
that.
big fan of eating.
Yes. We both cook. Zoe does most of the cooking, but every once in a while I'll take a fit.
And it makes me so happy.
I know,
I
it's
love
fun.
it when you cook.
I like that. If there was a new hobby that I had discovered, it would be that and bonsai trees. I like bonsai trees. I always like the idea
You know what
of them.
bonsais are?
They're like when you take a plant and you a little plant and you grow it and you in a little pot and you try to shape it to look like it's a full-size tree, but it only remains about this big.
It's a
or
Japanese
so,
art
or it
form,
can go
actually.
this big
Yeah.
and this big. And Chinese too, right? I mean, yeah.
Do Chinese do bonsai too? Okay.
And so I have a couple that I've been
Outside.
working on outside, and I found little trees that have grown in the garden, and I've pulled them up and I stuck them in a little pot, and I said, "You will become a bonsai." And so
That's right.
far they haven't died.
They haven't died.
So this I
That's successful.
Yes. So that, and I also like to read mostly fiction stuff and mystery stories. I like mystery stories. And what else do I like to do? Oh, I play tennis,
Mhm.
which is fun and frustrating. Yeah.
And it hurts.
And it hurts. Well, sometimes it
Sometimes
hurts.
it hurts.
Sometimes it hurts. Yeah. Yeah. I think that's.
That
Good.
covers us.
Does that cover us? I think
think
that
so.
covers us. Yes.
Sam, did you have one last one?
Yeah.
Mhm.
This is for both.
Okay.
What did you want to be when you were 7?
Mary Poppins.
Peter Pan?
Maybe Peter Pan or Dorothy in The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah. Oh.
What did I want? Oh! There's no place like
Oh.
home. Perfect.
Ah!
That's a different image of Dorothy than I would imagine. Is it manga?
Oh, I
or?
like that. I like that image.
cool.
It looks like one of those plasticky dolls with the big
The big heads,
and,
yeah.
the tiny bodies type of
Oh.
thing. Yeah.
She
Yeah.
has it too.
Oh, look at
Same,
that.
same.
But that's wait. Who are they? Oh wait, is that Princess
It's
Leia?
Princess Leia telling ghost stories about Darth Vader, scared of the
To all the other
princess.
Disney princesses.
Oh, okay. Oh, that's right, because Princess Leia is a Disney princess.
New franchise.
Oh, the corporation.
It's her new
It
gig.
moves onward and on.
Did you know what you wanted to be when you were 7?
Oh. Oh.
Are you by chance 7, Sam?
Yeah, he is.
How did I know that? I think, what did I really want to be though? I don't know that I knew.
Hmm.
I think maybe a teacher.
7. I probably wanted to be an astronaut or a clown. Yeah, because there was, because I always thought clowns were kind of cool. I'd never thought they were like really scary. So,
I did.
so I know. So probably, yeah, it didn't occur to me to.
I'm glad you didn't become a clown. Because I wouldn't be
Yeah.
able to be married to you if you were a clown.
I'm kind of glad about that too. Stephen King took all the fun out of clowns. Yeah. But yeah, so I was always one of those people who liked circuses and shows and places that were that were out of the ordinary world, and I still like that. So,
You're welcome.
yeah,
What do you
thank
say,
you
Sam?
very
Guys,
much.
we're
Well
together.
done.